Our dear Father Antoine, he lives with me in Conway, and he runs the Marionite Masses in Conway, part of our great grouping, and priest who comes up to hear confessions here, very devoted priest. We were having breakfast this morning, and he reminded me that today was the feast day of St. Mother Teresa, because that's the name of his parish. And so last night he had special vespers and a special mass dedicated to St. Mother Teresa. And then he went on to say that the reflection that he gave was, because the Pope has declared yesterday the World Day of Fasting for all the victims in the Beirut bombing and just the terrible situation that the dear country of Lebanon is in, which is where Father Antoine is from. It's been very appreciative, all the outpouring of funds and prayers for Father Antoine's community that he received from our great grouping. But at any rate, he reflected on one thing. He said, Mary went in haste with Jesus in her womb to visit her cousin Elizabeth, and obviously the baby who's in the womb of Elizabeth, St. John the Baptist. And he goes, same thing that Mother Teresa did. When Mother Teresa was in the world, there were these bombings and all these buildings were falling down, and she heard about these babies and youth and infants that were being squashed by these buildings. And so she left what she was doing. I don't know where she was in the world at that time. This is, I think, in the early 80s. And found a way into Beirut. I think she snuck onto a boat and then got off the shore there and then started to go through the cities trying to pull babies and young children out of these buildings that were tragically being bombed. And so she rescued lots of children during this time. And so Father Antoine made that connection between Mary going in haste to, in some sense, bring that salvation to John the Baptist, the baby, and same with Mother Teresa going in haste to bring that salvation of life to those infants that were going through this tragedy of being bombed. And in both cases, both women were really just bringing Jesus to those children. And when you think about what does it mean to be the title Mary, Queen of Apostles, it's basically what St. Mother Teresa says here. She says, Mary was the spotless pure that she attracted the presence of God. What Mary received, we too receive in Holy Communion. Bishop Fulton Sheen used to say, the Annunciation was Mary's first communion. And we receive Jesus every day. What a beautiful thing. She is most beautiful, for she is, of all creatures, Mary is the Queen of heaven and earth, mediatrix of all graces. Then Mother Teresa goes on. It's really beautiful. She goes, the missionaries of charity are dedicated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, cause of our joy and Queen of the world. Again, we come to the term world. What are we doing in the world? By our life and our deeds of love, we are making the church fully present in the world today. The society was founded to spread the kingdom of the Immaculate Heart among the poorest of the poor. Mary is the first person in the whole of creation who received Jesus physically in her body, and she is the one to carry Jesus to John. She went in haste. She is the first one to nurse him, to clothe him, to feed him, to look after him, to take care of him, to teach him. That is why she is the first missionary of charity, carrier of God's love. And so, for all of us this morning, it's good for us to ask ourselves, are we allowing the reception of Jesus to come fully into our hearts, minds, souls, bodies, everything that we do, especially through the Eucharist, but also through his sacred word? It's through the reception of Jesus that then we can go out in haste, like Mary, like Mother Teresa. And so maybe one way to make more space for us so that we can receive Jesus more fully this morning in the Eucharist, as we're all going to be able to do, and those in the internet world can do through spiritual communion, is to consider fasting. It's one of the most beautiful ways to make space for the Lord, not just in our stomachs, but in our minds. The Pope asked us to fast yesterday for Lebanon. The Bishop Zubik, is asking us to fast on Wednesday for the end of racial tensions in our cities. And I would add a third thing. So if you've got the Pope, the Bishop, well, then your pastor. What am I asking for? Well, just pray for the end of abortion. Maybe this week we'd all take a day or two, maybe to fast for Lebanon, fast on Wednesday, as the bishop's asking, and find another day to fast for those preborn babies and all those mothers who are considering what to do with that life inside of them. Mary, Queen of Apostles, pray for us.